So good afternoon, members. Just been doing a little bit of a walk around the garden in preparation for our Alcantara photo bomb day, which is happening on Thursday, which is our theme day. So for those members that have got Alcants in the garden that are looking especially nice at the moment, yeah, go ahead and take some photos, and we're going to put them all up on the page through the week. But I was doing a tidy up of one of the far western tropical gardens, which is a very shady area where I grow the Vrieseas out in the open exposed gardens. And one whole bed of gardens I have is this particular Vriesea that I've been growing for an awful long time, and this is a Dilling's Black Beauty crossed with Hieroglyphica. Ends up being a very large specimen plant on its own right. Doesn't need much if you like your big bands and your greens, but this particular one had flowered last year. It's been well fed up because it's got pups now all around it, and I'm just going to remove the pups. And so at this time of year it's very cool, and I'm not going to be planting them directly into their potting mix yet. Instead I'm going to leave them just in pots that have got some potting mix in the base of them, and I'm just going to pop the plants, the little pups, just over the top of them, and still pop them back in the same space, so that over the next few months they're not going to be at risk of root rot or vase rot or anything like that, because they haven't developed their root systems yet, because it's not their active sort of growing season for them at the moment. So to remove the Vriesea pups, really simple. I've shown this before, especially for these larger types. Cleaned around its base and removed all of the leaves that lead up to the axis where each pup is. And then all I need, so this is a pup, so all I need to do then is just bare hands. It's just popping my hands between the mum and where the pup is, the first pup along its base, to be removed, and just levering it gently away, and there's a distinct crack that you will hear, and then it's just a matter of a twist and a pull to remove the pup. And so what you end up with is a really nice healthy base. This is the heel of the Vriesea, and this is where it was removed from the meristem, and this flat section here is where we're going to be growing our roots in time. So I can either put that into the vase of another plant if I want to. I don't need to do that with these. They're nice big and very healthy pups. So straight into just a clean 200 pots is where this one's going to go, just with a name on it, and back over in the garden just with a bit of mix around the base. Now once again, just turning the pot around till I get to my next pot, and we're doing this all in order of the way that the pups have been grown up, mum. That way you're not breaking them off prematurely, also protecting any smaller ones that aren't quite ready yet. And once again, nice clean snap, and another one simply removes like so. Now if I was going to pot these up, what I would do is I would remove these lower little leaves here that are growing. That exposes the meristem. You do it really cleanly. That'll expose the meristem, which is this nice little white section, and it'll encourage roots. This one happens to have a couple of roots already in it, considering it was growing two ways up, two leaf axils up. It's gotten a bit of a feed from those leaf axils. So that's pup number 2. And now I'll just clear away the last leaf, not to be too greedy and get to them too quickly. If you try to rush the process, it's when you'll end up breaking them off. And then that brings me to my third pup, which is smaller than my first 2, which I expect. And that'd be my third one. Okay, so that's 3 now again from this mum, who's already produced several already. So all of those can just sit in the pots, with or without potting mix in the bottom. It's entirely up to you. I always put just a little bit, just to help prevents the roots going through these pots. These are the bromeliad pots with all these additional holes. So I do put a little bit of mix in them, because otherwise I end up with roots all tangled up amongst those holes. Now mum is finished, so to say, as far as going back into the garden she is, but she's not finished yet pupping, I wouldn't say. So instead, just cleaning up her base and then applying some slow release fertilizer to her. And I'm actually just going to use power feed today on these ones, because I've just picked up a new bucket. So literally half a handful just around the base, give it a bit of a feed and a top up. Now she's going to go over to the mum's garden, and the mum's garden is still a garden that gets looked at regularly for pups, and as they produce the pups, then away those pups come. If they get put away into a far part of the garden at the very back behind the tunnels, for example, it's not an area that I frequent that often, and so by the time I realise the pups are there, quite often they're either straggly or they're not well looked after. So for that reason, I still put my mum somewhere where I visit regularly just to keep an eye on them. You still got to look after your little old mums when they're getting a little bit old and frail, and keeping an eye on them so that they give you another baby. That's a very simple way of how to take the Vriesea pups off, doing it with a much larger variety to make things a lot easier. Smaller varieties take a little bit of while. There's some other ones up further that also need to have their pups off. They're quite rare and more expensive than this old girl, and I'm going to leave them for a little while until they establish a little bit more. There's no need to take them off at this time of year. They can continue to colour up, and then over the next couple of months leading into spring, I'll take those pups off as well. Meanwhile, I'll get back to my photoshopping of all of my different elk-ants, and I have a high suspicion that this giant one behind me here, which is my big Imperialis USA clone, possibly is going into bloom. So I've just managed to get up a ladder to take some overhead pictures to have a look to see whether or not that's actually sadly going to be the case. Stay tuned for Thursday. All right, bye now.